Well, time to shift gears to a lighter note. We're going to talk about a baby that'll cost $50,000, says one wife to her husband. The story of a couple looking to conceive and taking the idea of splitting the household expenses to its extreme. This is making the rounds. First posted on Reddit and quickly taken down, it offers at least a thought experiment that is generating some heated comments, as you can imagine. Here are the details. Couple's been married 6 years. They've shared all the expenses 50-50, even the wedding and honeymoon costs. But now the wife, she's a high earner. She says she only gets 1 year maternity leave, only gets half of her pay for 6 months, and then nothing after that. So she's doing the math on the back of the envelope and says, that's $50,000, pony up. I guess it would have been $100,000 and maybe he's just paying half of that. Nevertheless, it seems fairly logical. Akiko, a little bit brutal. I understand how the guy could feel, but logical nonetheless.
Well, Jared, it's such a good conversation to have on International Women's Day. We were just talking about the gender pay gap that already exists. And of course, we should mention the original post that appeared on Reddit has been deleted since. So there's no way to verify whether, in fact, this couple exists, whether those details are as they say they are. But it has really made the rounds because I think a lot of women have been thinking about this, that $50,000. I mean, the question is, how do you put a price on all those additional chores that Misty earlier, our earlier guest, had mentioned that women have to take on? It's not just about the time off from work. It's about the things that have to be done at home to raise a child. And by the way, Jared, I don't know how she breaks down carrying a baby for 9 months. I don't know how you put a price tag on that. But if anything, it does show how much more women contribute, at least in childbearing. I think that is the point of this feat. An interesting discussion, I should say. I think it's triggered a lot of women who say, yeah, you know what, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem comes down to the approach here. It seems a little bit mathematical and cold in nature, but I think it raises some very good issues. At the very least, this is a great discussion point. In fact, it's the reason why we're talking about it right here. And the fact that it comes on International Women's Day, I think, raises the level of the conversation. This is a lighter note, but on a more serious note, a lot of these inequalities have to be corrected. And I think trying to put the dollar value on some of the experience that goes along with not only, as you say, carrying the baby, but also dealing with some of the things after birth that we don't necessarily associate with paid work for a woman. If you can put a price tag on all this stuff, I think that eventually you're going to find adequate compensation, maybe a little bit more maternity leave.
Well, and Jared, if there's a silver lining to all this, of course, I mean, I take your point that putting a price tag can feel a little transactional, but you could argue that companies have become more aware of the burden that women have to take on raising kids, especially during the pandemic. Those women who have kids that had to go to school, had to do remote learning while also trying to juggle their work at home. And that's why we've seen so many women drop out of the workforce altogether. So certainly something to just keep in mind, not just on International Women's Day, but every day, which of course we're going to try to do here at Yahoo Finance.